Soccer's morning show's on an hour early. Not a habit, trust me. I've got high school football stuff that's now starting to blend in, and it's media days later this morning. And so, literally, I'll show you what's going on. So, traditionally, as you all know, I have about 4 different calendars, and there is the Google Calendar, which is on the phone that I'm not going to show you. For those of you that may not know, here's the big desk calendars that we used to have, growing up and everything. I still have them, and that reminds me, I've got to cross off like 10 days worth of stuff, and I've got that. So Google Calendar, then there's the calendar in the fridge at like 2:30 in the morning, and that one is available for both me and the boss, and that one, it comes up with ideas and things. And so, like, if you forget something, you put it on there. She has her path that's in one color. I have my path that's in another color. And then we sit there and we look for the intersections, especially starting basically now and going until like Christmas. And then that's 3. So this is 4. And 4 is the notebook that starts off the week with all of the guests, all the episodes, all the other things that I have to do. And you hope that by the end of the week, this is all crossed off. If it's not, then there's problems. So we're on an hour early this morning because of a couple different things. Morning, Alex. Morning, Michael. We'll get into things that, Wall Pass Wednesday is all about. Trust me, whatever's on the board from 8 to 10. And there's a lot to talk about. Leagues Cup, there's a lot of news to get into. Stuff with Women's World Cup right now. As a matter of fact, Ireland has an early lead on Canada. Canada is in trouble. And, this has not been good for the Canadians. We also have news on the men's side when it comes to Canada. Rick Westhead, who we have requested that you guys follow when you're on the Twitters or on Threads or what have you. He had some stuff yesterday, but Canada is in an early hole with Ireland. The McCabe goal in the 4th minute has given the Ireland national team a 1-0 lead over Canada. So we've got all that. We've got the action from the overnight, all these kinds of things. And you're hoping that there's a lot of stuff that gets taken care of today. Today, for me, it is high school. It's the 2s. Still waiting to find out where the venue is going to be for Friday night for Atlanta United and Columbus Crew. When we have an answer, the team will have an answer, then they'll post it, and then more details will come after that. Obviously, later today, for those of you that are here in Atlanta, it is the Premier League Summer Series, and that's a doubleheader at Mercedes-Benz. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. The press conferences yesterday had Chelsea, had Newcastle, had Brighton, and had Brentford. And so it'll be, that doubleheader today. On the network later this morning, you'll have your USL Championship programming. You'll have your USL League One Week in Review, plus your MLS Next Pro Week in Review. So 3 programs coming up later this morning and this afternoon as we get ready for things. Later in the week, our USL League 2 round of 8. We'll have that show up and running for you, and we'll also have our NPSL show because they're in the national semifinals. So there's all of that. So it's whatever you want to talk about this morning. Like I said, there's plenty going on across the board, and I was trying to write down all the things that needed to be talked about when it came to national teams and all of that. We can get into that as we go. Rob Harris has been a very busy man. There's some news having to do with Spurs, news with Zambia that we'll get into. But opening kickoff, we'll go ahead and lay it all out there. Morning, Tom. Morning, Unk. Unk hasn't slept yet because of no reason. So let me ask you this. I'll let this be opening kickoff since Unk kind of opened the door. Opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And there is the QR code for those of you who are watching across our social media platforms on Facebook, on Twitch, and on Twitter. Use the code soccer down here 15 to get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10% reinvested into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So since Unc brought this up, I will bring this up somewhat independently. How many of you, because Unc hasn't slept yet because of reasons, since we are dayside and Unc, I think, is a half a planet away, how many of you can nap in daylight? How many of you can nap in daylight? I can't. And the reason that I'm asking this is because, frankly, Unc, I want you to get some rest. But it triggered a question in my head, and I wanted to see if I was alone in this. How many of you actually can take a nap in daylight hours? I can't. And so the one exception is when I'm on an airplane. And when I'm on an airplane, I always request a window seat so I can rest up against the fuselage. And I'm literally out during the pre-flight instructions. 13th minute, Ireland still leading Canada by the score of 1-0. This would be a big win for Vera Poe and the program if they can see this out over the span of the show. I can't sleep in daylight. It doesn't matter if you pull the shades down. Doesn't matter if you can do anything magically to drown out all of the sunlight. I can't sleep in the daylight hours. Nope. Overnight, no matter if I'm getting 4 or 5 in the overnight, I'd rather lay down, get in a nap, and in the overnight, and then try to get things moving in the morning. I can't sleep in the daylight, and I wanted to know if I was alone in that. Like I said, my only exception's on an airplane. I can get on an airplane and I'm out. Nighttime, I can sleep. Nighttime, no sun, I'm fine. Daytime, sun, can't do it. Absolutely can't do it. And when I nap, it ends up going, I mean, it literally, if I end up falling asleep like, dinner time or something like that, it's not one of those long naps. It ends up being something that might be like 20 or 30 minutes. And then you're like, oh crap, I've gone to bed for 20 or 30 minutes. And then you feel like you've forgotten to do something. So maybe that's part of it too. There's always that specter hanging over your shoulder about what's going on. But yeah, I just wanted to know if I was alone in this. And so, Unc, I want you to have a safe day, and I want you to get your rest. Okay, so Tom can nap in the daytime. He needs darkness. Alex says he can nap. Morning, Alex. But you've been expressly prohibited from doing so because you wake up very cranky. No, Bam, it's 10:14. The reason that we're on early, this is not something that's going to happen a lot. This time of year, and I'll catch Bam up on some stuff here. This time of year is when my worlds collide. I have high school American football duties in addition to football duties. And so I have, media days where you catch up with coaches and things like that. I have one of those media days coming up later this morning, and it's basically all day before I go to Mercedes-Benz for the doubleheader in the Premier League. So literally it's like I had to move the show up. Wiley, you're far better than I am, man. If you can, it's not an issue to nap, man. Far good for you. But Bam, my worlds are colliding. So the only way that I could do something this morning was to slide things a little bit and see what kind of trouble I can get into by going 8 to 10 Eastern time here in the U.S. as opposed to 9 to 11. This is a one-off. This is not something that is going to be normal because I can't function at 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's why we're going from 8 to 10 as opposed to 9 to 11. Hopefully we'll have Luke Winstel and his merry band joining us. I know that Taft Gant is at the game that we're keeping an eye on over our left shoulder here in studio. Ireland's 16th coming on the 17th minute, leading Canada by the score of 1-0. So keep an eye on all of that. But no, this is just because I've got some other daytime commitments that I've got to get into that I found out about yesterday. So to have a show this morning to talk about everything there is to talk about, you slide it to 8 to 10 Eastern time, and it goes from 10 to midnight for you, Bam. So that's why we're on early this morning. No, nothing. This is not a programming change. This is not any kind of programming. Whatever the words you want to use. This is not a programming mandate or anything like that. So just like I said, this is just me this morning. And we'll, like I said, but we got plenty to talk about, trust me. So it's a Wall Pass Wednesday, whatever's on your mind. And, we'll go through it all. And I know that Tom is fired up this morning. I know that Michael's fired up this morning. And we'll see what's going on. And we'll go from there. Sorry, I'm also having to answer emails and about said shoot. And we'll see what okay, so sorry that this is amazingly riveting live TV and radio. But yeah, so that's where we are. Just a one-off, trust me. That's all we're doing. All right. So Nick's is in early, Tom is in early, Alex is in early. JW, it is a cool day for soccer here in the city. Let's see. So I guess we'll discuss stuff. All right. So that was opening kickoff. Can you sleep in the daylight? Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget to use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15. You get 15% off your purchase, and they in turn take 10% reinvested into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. So go ahead and put your comments in the queue. What I will do is I'll talk about the news of the overnight, scores of the overnight. We'll go ahead and load it up. I know that there's a lot of frustration, there's anger, there's dismay, there's whatever emotion you want to put in there this morning. Go ahead, lay it all in there, because biggest thing to remind everybody is that because this is a separate tournament, you have a chance to advance. And to do that, those of you who have tickets for Saturday night need to show up. It's a knockout game, basically. Atlanta United needs to beat Cruz Azul, who are last in Liga MX in the Apertura. They've only scored 1 goal, given up 6 in their first 3 matches. So Cruz Azul is going to come into Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it's going to be a street fight. Whatever you want to phrase it, as, and it's going to be a mess. I mean, literally, it is going to be, it is going to be one of those things where you're going to sit there and go, yeah, this is, and it's going to be even that much more physical going in. I mean, Cruz Azul knows what they've got to do to advance to the knockouts. Atlanta United knows that it's coming, and they need to be able to respond in kind. So we'll get into that, obviously, as the week goes along. On Friday, we'll talk about a little more in depth. But just know going in that because this is a separate cup competition, has no bearing on the Major League Soccer season, that this knockout game, that what it is, literally, you cannot lose to Cruz Azul in advance. So everybody that's got Leagues Cup tickets for Saturday night, show up, be loud, be crazy. They're going to need it to move. There were some interesting results last night outside of last night in Leagues Cup. Santos Laguna and Houston went to penalties. Houston got the extra point. It was 2-2 after 90, 5-4 in PKs. And so Houston got the additional point. Dallas ended up with a 3-0 win over Necaxa last night. And then Mazatlan, Akeloba. Who knew? Akeloba in Mazatlan scores to tie the match with Juarez, FC Juarez, 1-1 draw after 90. And it was Mazatlan winning 4-2 in PK. So Mazatlan got the extra point when it came to Leagues Cup last night. And so it was, you got those performances. And, as I sit here and I'm trying to find standings in Leagues Cup in the group stage, Mazatlan, they've got 5 points in their first 2 matches. So, it's been interesting to see that group because Mazatlan specifically, after you were looking at the win over Austin in the first round, you ended up with them getting the extra point. So they got, you've got the 2 matches played, Juarez and Austin. Right now, Mazatlan has advanced. They got the extra point, and they have 5 points. So Mazatlan advances. The last match in that group is Austin and Juarez, and that is on the 29th, which is, if my math as calendars function, that's Saturday night. So Saturday night, it's an elimination game, much like Fort Lauderdale United for Austin FC. Austin FC has Juarez, and as long as Juarez bests Austin's result, they advance and Austin goes home. So South 1 has been decided. South 2, Houston Dynamo played that second match. They have 3 points. Orlando City has 2. Santos Laguna 1. Santos Laguna and Orlando City can determine who ends up being the 1 and the 2 out of South 2. Houston's done with 3 points. So if Santos Laguna ends up with 2 points, then you're ending up with math. And so that's with that one. So the easiest result would be for Orlando City to better Santos Laguna than it would be Orlando City and Houston. Santos Laguna would go home. South 3, we'll talk about, obviously. Inter Miami wins 2. You've got your first 2 matches at home. You get full points against Cruz Azul and Atlanta United. And so, obviously, Atlanta United, Cruz Azul, somebody wins that one. The winner of that one goes to the next round. It's an elimination game. South 4, FC Dallas has advanced with the win that they got last night. So it is going to come down to Charlotte and Necaxa in Charlotte on Saturday night. And Charlotte has a 2-point lead on Necaxa. So Necaxa has to win and do so in regulation. So you got to keep an eye on that. Charlotte right now, 2 points. Necaxa has no points. The other activity that has been going on, we're anticipating schedule, so we'll talk about schedule coming up here tonight, coming up in just a little bit when it comes to our friends in Leagues Cup. That's how we're phrasing it. North and Central America. That's how we're phrasing it. So a lot of activity today in Leagues Cup with Atletico San Luis, New England Revolution. Juice boxes have the Revs at a -127. Atletico San Luis at a +308. Also at 7:30, CF Montreal, DC United. CF Montreal's a +127. Your draw's a +244. DC United's a +192. And yes, I'm doing a bit of filibustering here. I want you to get your thoughts in the Twitch pitch, and we'll discuss. Thoughts about last night across the board. Doesn't matter what we're talking about. We're talking about Leagues Cup. I'm setting you up for tonight. Let you know what's going on. Let me know what's on your mind. Put it in the Twitch pitch. We'll discuss. NYC at 7:30 is a -147 against Toronto. Toronto's a +370. Your draw's a +278. Philadelphia, -175 against Querétaro. Querétaro's north of +430. Draws of plus 308. At 9:30, Monterey and RSL. Monterey is a plus 172. RSL is a plus 144. Your draws a plus 241. 10:30, LA Galaxy and León was supposed to be played last night, but remember, because of issues with the plane leaving Vancouver, León had to stay an extra night. This one got pushed back to today. 10:30, Galaxy are a plus 112. Your draws a plus 200. And, León's a plus 200. Your draws a plus 277. And it is Tigres at 11 o'clock and Portland Timbers basically dead even across the board. Base at 159 on both sides, 160, and your draws a plus 234. So with all of those games going on, West 1 still in play with the match tonight with Tigres and the Timbers. With Tigres and Timbers, this will go a long way to figure out what can happen in the West. Timbers won their first match against San Jose, put San Jose in a real uphill battle. So San Jose is rooting for Tigres tonight. So we'll see what happens. Once again, that match is at Providence Park at 10 o'clock. RSL Monterey Sounders, West 2. RSL won the match against Seattle. We'll have Nico Moreno on tomorrow to talk about the Pacific perspective on Leagues Cup and what's been going on. So Seattle rooting for Monterey because Monterey gets Sounders last match day. Monterey and RSL. RSL's got 3 points. Monterey will be playing their first match. West 3, León and the Whitecaps. León got the extra point in penalties. Remember the 19 frames when it was 16-15? We played that one for you yesterday. When you miss in frames 1, 2, and 6, and you don't miss again until frame 19. Galaxy, obviously, they're rooting. They need to take care of business because they've got the last 2 matches in the group with León and Vancouver. So Galaxy, they're waiting to hop on board. They can take care of business. They advance. We'll keep an eye on West 3. Central is tomorrow. We'll go over that. Crew, Club America, St. Louis. Crew's got the first 3 points out of that group. Also, Central is tomorrow, Group 2. Minnesota United's got the first 3 points. And Puebla's obviously rooting for a draw tomorrow so they can have their say on the final match day on the 31st. Central 3, that's also tomorrow. Cincinnati Sporting Kansas City. Cincinnati got the extra point in PKs, 2-1. So Guadalajara has to take care of business themselves going up against Cincinnati and Sporting. Central 4, that's also tomorrow. Nashville get the first 3 points in group. Colorado is rooting for Toluca against Nashville at Geodis because Toluca has the last match day against Colorado Rapids. Like I said, we mentioned what happened in South 1. Austin and Juarez is a knockout game. South 2, crowded. It's going to come down to Santos Laguna, Orlando City. South 3, we know what's going to happen. It's a knockout game. Cruz Azul, Atlanta United. South 4, Dallas advanced. Charlotte and Necaxa is on the 29th, on Saturday night, to determine what happens there. East 1, Philadelphia, Querétaro. We mentioned that one. Philadelphia, if they beat Querétaro, Querétaro's first match, Philadelphia advances. Tijuana is rooting for chaos. So Xolos is rooting for chaos. That one's the 26th and the 30th. East 2, Montreal, Pumas, 2 points, 1 point. DC United has yet to play. So DC United gets CF Montreal. They win tonight. Match group goes into chaos for the last match day with Pumas and DC United. Obviously, if you're Pumas, you're rooting for Montreal because you want to say on match day. Match day 3. East 3, Atlas, Toronto hasn't played yet. Atlas got the first 3 points going up against NYC with the 1-0 win. At Red Bull Arena in Harrison, NYC and Toronto FC. before Atlas goes to BMO to take on Toronto. So NYC has to take care of business tonight and then root for whomever's the lower pointed total going in. East 4, Red Bulls, Revs, and Atletico San Luis. ASL has not played yet. Once again, that's tonight in Foxborough. Red Bulls with 2 points, getting the extra point in penalties, winning 4-2 over the Revs back on the 22nd. So that's where we are. You've got some knockouts coming up in match day 3, and that's where we're standing. Michael looks like he's heading to the Benz tonight. Once again, doubleheader at the Benz. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. All right. 32nd minute. Ireland is leading Canada by the score of 3-1. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that. It was a goal in the 4th minute that got Ireland right now, as the group stands, 3 points for Ireland right now. Canada has 1 point. Canada's in trouble. So Wiley apparently has tickets to the match tonight. He's in Maine. Don't think Wiley's going to make it. So if anybody has any thoughts with Wiley that you're looking at right now, Wiley has tickets for the Premier League matches tonight. And if anybody's interested, catch up with Wiley. I'm sure that Wiley can transfer him over to you pretty much. No, it's we can't really do, Bam, we really can't do watch-alongs per se. So it's more like me looking over my left shoulder or looking into the picture frame off to my left to see if I can catch a reflection. But no, late 33rd minute, Ireland leading Canada 1-0. 4th minute goal, they got the lead. And JW, you're right. It is a cool day for soccer with what's going to happen later today, the doubleheader at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Press conferences yesterday with the 4 clubs. It was Mauricio Pochettino, Reece James. It was Eddie Howe, Kieran Trippier. It was Roberto De Zerbi and who was it with De Zerbi yesterday? And then it was Thomas Frank for Brentford and a player. What they would do is they would bring in one and then the other. Brighton and Brentford apparently took a while. They had problems landing in Atlanta yesterday, and so it was a while for them. But press conferences were over at 8 o'clock. It was good to catch up with Reece James. Got to do most of the talking with Pochettino, because most of the talking that the writers from outside the United States, which was basically everybody but me, wanted to talk about was transfers instead of what was going on specifically with developing teams and developing your team strength together and ready for the season. So it was an interesting dynamic to see what was going on. You had the NBC folks; they were off to the side listening to what Mauricio Pochettino and Eddie Howe were saying. Bit of a conversation, obviously, about Miguel Almiron and his return. So you guys know what to do when it comes to Miggy, and I know that Miggy's captaining, if I remember correctly, at what Eddie Howe was saying. So. No, I mean, well, Uncle, yeah, what I'm doing right now is I'm going down the line. Not really filibustering per se, but I'm just going down the line now. I'm looking at the Twitch pitch in sequence. And we can, so like I said, it'll be really interesting to see the response for Newcastle. Alex, I know that you'll be rooting as no one else will. But no, it was interesting to catch up with Roberto De Zerbi and get his philosophical take on what was going on at Brighton, and Thomas Frank and Brentford to find out what it's like. I mean, they finished 3 points out of 6. What do you do for an encore, right? So if you're a fan of Brentford, it was pretty quick with Thomas Frank. There were only a handful of us there at the time. So, but yeah, later today, doubleheader involving Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, Brentford, part of the summer series for the Premier League. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay. Nix is mad. He wants Gonzalo Pineda out. Tom wants Carlos Bocanegra out. Unk could give or take Pineda at this point. Wants Boca gone. Atlanta, Michael, people forecasting Atlanta United would be able to score as Miami had a bad defense. We showed him has a bad defense. Okay, so let's get into this. You look at what happened last night, and here we go. You look at Miami defensively, and the one thing that you cannot let them do with the back line that they have is let Miami score an early goal. I would posit that if the Tyler Wolff chance, and I have not seen the full goal. I need to go back about 30 seconds before. I need to go from the point when Atlanta is working their way from left to right. Wolff hits the crossbar. I want to see what happens after that. I need to see how many folks were forward and trying to press offensively to get that first goal on the board early on. I know there was also the goal that was scored, but it was also offside. So, ball hits the crossbar from Tyler Wolff. Then back in transition, it's once again against the run of play. Busquets has space, finds Messi, and then it's 1-0. At the end of the night, let me go to our friends at SofaScore because I want to get the numbers. And then that's also something that I want to get into as well. There are a couple of elements in this that I wanted to get into. You cannot, with Busquets. Busquets had space in transition. Yeah, Abby, we'll catch up on Manchester United and Wrexham too as a part of the stuff for the day. But what I want to know is ball hits the crossbar, what the numbers were like. And it looked like, once again, because you're not going to have numbers defensively helping you out for Inter Miami. I will say this. I think Inter Miami loses a lot of 4-3-5-4 games. I think there's going to get a lot of goals scored. I will maintain that because of that back line. But what you can't do, because the back line is as suspect as it is give up the early goal. And you gave up the early goal. And we all got to see the kinds of players that Messi and Busquets are. Still massively talented. But you can't give Messi space. And on the first goal, it was a transition goal. Messi scores. We got to see firsthand that why Lionel Messi is one of the greatest players on this or any other planet. And then the golazo from Taylor to end the first half. And I'm taking each element in and of itself. We talked about the first goal in transition. Second goal, you can't give Messi space. Third goal from Taylor was an absolute rocket. But what has happened after those first two goals, you're chasing at that point. And then you're trying to figure out how you're defending Messi and Busquets. Because if you give Messi space, you see what happens in the second goal. If you crowd and try to make sure he doesn't have possession and Busquets doesn't have possession, then you see what happens with the third goal. We always talk about positional gravity. You gravitate toward Messi, other folks are open. It's up to them to be clinical and shut the door. Taylor did, it was 3. And then Taylor got the brace in the second half. And there were moments where you got to see, once again, what Messi is able to do in the sense of creation, A, and B, once again, that gravity that we talk about. If you gravitate toward him, there was one moment that ended up, I think, with a save from Brad in the second half where you could see in the replay where Messi looks to his left, and this is when Miami's going from left to right. Messi is coming down the middle. You can see that there is space open because defenders are drawn toward Lionel Messi. Messi makes the pass to his left. Then there's the quick pass back into the middle to create the opportunity because, once again, it's very, very quick, decisive elements that are going back and forth involving Lionel Messi. Messi to his left, pass comes back to the middle, shot there. Great save by Brad. So when you're trailing and Miami can have possession and can slow the ball down, what you want to do with Miami is run them. And you saw that in the second half with when you brought on guys like Mosqueda. When you brought on the fresh legs, that Mosqueda was creating chances because he had fresh legs, because he had speed. But they finished the night with 61% possession, meaning Miami. They can't have the ball that long because they'll slow the ball down. They'll slow the game down. And when they've got a lead and they can slow the game down, you're chasing. But we also got to see firsthand what Messi and Busquets mean to the sport of soccer. Total shots on the night, 12-10, Miami, 7 on target to 6, 2 blocks for Miami to 1. Atlanta had 8 corners, 9 fouls to 8. You had the 1 red card for McVay, and that's dumb on a bunch of different fronts because of the injury to Krivtsov. How does that hurt the back line if he's injured and you have 1 less player because of an injury? Now you've got McVay who's out in their next game, first game out in the knockout stage. What does their back line look like? Let's see. Big chances, 3-1, counterattacks, 3-0, counterattack shots, all that kind of stuff. Brad had 3 saves. Drake Callender's another story here tonight, or last night. Drake Callender, if he's not considered for national team duty, it's a complete and total mistake from the USMNT. It's nights like that last night also, when Atlanta is shooting on net, then Callender makes the saves that he made. 6 saves for Drake Callender last night. And we can also talk about the penalty with Thiago Almada. It was another great save. Once again, Callender's leaning. He has to kind of reach up full arm extension to save it. And that's just the kind of night that it was. 90% passing on 575 passes. I'd love to know the last time that Inter Miami had anything close to that number of passes in a match. Because once again, Tata Martino knows, because of his time with Messi, because of his time with Joseph, because of his time with Busquets, what they can do. And out of the blocks, you get to play your first 2 Leagues Cup matches in your tournament at home. But with Messi, with Joseph, with Busquets, you know what they can do. You have the players that are around them that are younger be those supporting players. Kromaski, great work from him. It was great to, if you're a fan of Inter Miami, great work from the younger guys last night. Here's another number. 22 clearances from Inter Miami last night compared to 6 for Atlanta. Because, you look at Miami. Here's the starting lineup last night. 4-3-3. Backline, Noah Allen, Kamal Miller, Krivtsov, DeAndre Yedlin. Dixon Arroyo, Busquets, Kromaski. You got to see great work from Kromaski and Dixon Arroyo in the midfield last night. Kromaski actually had a higher rating on SofaScore than Busquets. Dixon Arroyo had the same number as Sergi Busquets last night. Messi, Joseph, Robert Taylor up top. Messi, by the way, this is the first time I think I've seen something like this. A 9.9. 2 goals. Robert Taylor had a 9.3. Messi had a 9.9 last night on SofaScore. I don't know why they didn't just give him the 10, because he was insane. But the rest of the world saw what Lionel Messi still has in his skill set. And unfortunately, it was against Atlanta United. 2 goals and an assist. So That's what you're looking at right now after last night. And so how does Atlanta United respond in an elimination game? And that's what it is. It's an elimination game. You don't want to go home. You don't want that 3 weeks to sit there and think about everything else. So your League's Cup bracket to get into what your possibilities are. I think it's the Charlotte bracket. So don't quote me yet. I'm trying to find the bracket. I think that it is Charlotte group that you're looking at when it comes to League's Cup. So, okay. So S3, lower right-hand side of the bracket. Here's what you're staring at. The elimination game on Saturday night. Inter Miami has won the group. They will play the second-place team out of South 2, which will be either Santos Laguna, Orlando, or Houston. They still have some stuff to play for. The second-place team in the South, S3, plays the winner in South 4. Could be Dallas, could be Charlotte. Necaxa is the fourth team in that group. So it could be a trip to Frisco, could be a trip to Charlotte, probably Charlotte at this rate. And that's a game that can be had. Then you get through that. Pachuca, the Liga MX champ, would play the second place team in the South 2. This is in your little mini bracket if you're projecting out. Pachuca right now in Liga MX, they have not had a good start either. So you look at Pachuca, they're 16th, 0-2-1 in their first 3. So that's what you're looking at. But first things first, it's an elimination game. Elimination game on Saturday. The world got to see Lionel Messi and Sergi Busquets firsthand. Unc thinks the roster situation is a complete disgrace. So then, and this is probably the discussion we're going to be having over the next couple of days. If, Unc, in your mind, the situation is a complete disgrace, let me ask you this. How would you fix it? Legitimately. This is the question that I will pose here to the floor. For those of you that have the thoughts that you have, and you put them in the Twitch pitch all the time, you do. What would you do in changing the situation? How would you change it? Remember, you're dealing with salary caps, you're dealing with contracts, you're dealing with assets, and you're dealing with front office personnel, for lack of a better phrase. Personnel on and off the field. How would you change it? And I know that we can make the snide comment about, well, we could do like Miami or we could do like Los Angeles. But if we're going to go down this road, and I don't think we need to yet, just something to think about. And so I guess this is where you put your thinking caps on today. If Unc is of a mind that the roster situation is a complete disgrace, which I would disagree with, how would you address it? Like I said, you don't have to answer it today. But if that is your thought, how would you address it? And what would you do to change it? So like I said, that's our thinking cap question, I guess, today for the Wall Pass Wednesday. What would you do to change it? Parzival, really hope Arthur saw what happened and sent an email to Garber CCing Apple and Adidas saying, we too have a player that we would need a special deal. Well, and Parzival, the Messi deal, and maybe to a lesser extent, Busquets, Jordi Alba, maybe Luis Suarez. The best way that I can phrase it is you look at those NIL deals that we have with Lionel Messi. But basically, that's what it is. It's a name, image, and likeness deal where you have partners. Who else on this planet could have one of those type deals that you could bring into the fold? Who else? Who else could be of that stature that you could bring into Major League Soccer to pay the $40 or $50 million plus the deals and all these kinds of things? So that's the big question for me. And I know that Tom is discussing front office changes if one goes, then the other. Unk preferred if they just not bring in the winger if it's taking this long, he wants too much. Not necessarily true. It's not the he when it comes to players. The updates that we have, and once again, this is where we're learning about Turkish sources. The Turkish sources this morning or yesterday, and let me see, since we're discussing Turkish sources, let me see if we have any updates one way or the other. Okay. And so, like I said, this is just talk right now. And once again, we learn our sources, but once again, you have discussions in Peruvian papers early this morning about Luis Abram and Sivasspor. We had those discussions yesterday coming from Turkish sources. So newspaper / websites, what have you. But once again, very, very low on the followers chain, so I'm not going to mention who it is, as I'm doing my research, as we all learn. Then discussions that Sivasspor is getting closer in Luis Abram. Like I said, sources, Peruvian versus Turkish, we're still learning all these kinds of things. We know some type A's, but we don't know all the type A's. Let's see. Let me see if I could spell Lobjanidze. I actually did. Okay, so if I could spell his actual name, then we'd be okay. Once again, looking at numbers, nothing in the last couple of days. It appears where Lobjanidze is concerned, depending on where we're discussing things, that you're still looking at that $1.5 million difference. 1 million to $1.5 million for Saba Lobjanidze at Hatayspor, and no update on Diego Rossi. So that's where we are with those. And keep an eye on that. Michael, Cruz Azul, they ain't scoring goals either. Cruz Azul's not scoring goals. They're on the road. They're having to do things that way. So my answer is yes. Parzival, anyone keep count on how many times the announcer said Messi? I did not listen to the television broadcast. I listened to Mike and Jason. Although I did see all of the cutaways of all of the folks who were in the celebrity section, the owner's box, family, all those kinds of things. I did see those. I was listening to Mike and Jason. Tom, then let me ask you this. Tom is seriously considering bagging it. We're awful. If you did that, you take away the opportunity to play in live games. And like I said, I'm compartmentalizing MLS from Leagues Cup. It is a separate competition. I'm compartmentalizing here. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at the competition here in front of me, Leagues Cup, which has no bearing on a crowded Eastern Conference. And you want to go as long as you can in a tournament So you can sit there and look at things. I want this kind of analysis. I mean, we have what? A handful of days left in the window, but it's not the player that we know of yet. It's the team. Team and team are in the Lobes you needs of discussions. Team and team are separate. They're separated. And once again, it's team discussion. It's not necessarily player. Like the Yakamakis discussion was player because he wanted to come to Major League Soccer and not go to the J League. Luke Winstel coming up in about 10 minutes to discuss what's going on Women's World Cup. They're at the break. So that's what you're looking at for there. It's team versus team. It is in the rare instance where you have a player like a Yorgos Yakamakis where he's like, no, I want to go here versus I want to go here. It's the stature that would be tied to that kind of a thing. But Tom, you want the team to be playing peers for as much as you can. And that's why I map out the League's Cup bracket the way that I do. Because if you were to lose the Cruz Azul match, then you're out of League's Cup and you got 3 weeks to figure out what's going on. But you don't get the chance to do that against live competition. You don't get to do it in the Cup competition, and you're not doing it in Major League Soccer for another couple of weeks. You want that live competition. I don't think you ever want to bag it in any element of competition. I don't think you do. And you show up, you support. They need they need the support. They do. They do. And I know that everybody was also talking about Thiago Almada and taking penalties too. LAFC faces the winner of Austin and Juarez. Yeah, and Abby's right. Extremely defeating after what seemed to be a good start in the first 7 minutes. Parzival, before anyone says any team can sign an impact player, full player through the DP rule. Miami couldn't sign Messi without help from other parties. Define other parties. I mean, if this is how, it literally is. Oh, Luke's coming in earlier. Okay. I was thinking 9:05 for Luke, but we'll get Luke to talk about things for a half hour. Then we'll wrap up once again with Atlanta United coming up in short order. Other parties, the corporate parties, yes. Getting help from Apple and Adidas and all that kind of stuff, yes. So we'll just see what other rock stars are on the table. Abby, one other thing. So when they talk about draw in the odds for a tournament that won't allow draws, that is a draw in regulation. When I'm talking juice boxes and I discuss draw, it's draw in regulation. They don't get into the whole thing of PKs and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm discussing when it comes to a 90-minute draw. That's what that is. Yes, it's amazing what a transfer window can do for other things. Let's see. Yeah, and that's Abby. That's the thing. You can't give Messi space. You just can't. I'm not. And Tom, before we get to Luke Winstel, Tom says team's not going on some magical run. You beat Cruz Azul. You're going up against Charlotte, a team you can beat probably. Then you're going up against, Pachuca and another team that you probably can beat. You got the possibility of Inter Miami in the round of 8. Like I said, you get into a tournament. We know this with March Madness. We know this with the basketball tournament. Anything can happen. And I know that you're probably sitting there going, he's Pollyannaing and he's doing whatever. But you want to play as long as possible. You want to play as much as possible. You want to get all of that stuff done as much as possible. You want the live reps to get you ready for postseason. You don't want to be done early because then you're sitting there on your hands and trying to figure things out. 9:00. All right. So we'll come back in the final half hour. We'll continue talking about this. And who knows if we'll get to all the news that's fit to print. So 9 o'clock, which means it's 11 o'clock in Brisbane, Australia, which means we bring in Luke Winstel. Where are you? Wait a second. That's not your hotel room.
No, I'm down here in a different spot today. I'm down in the lobby. We're having a watch party for Canada, Ireland because, covering Group B. So I've got the home base, and then had a couple other people stop in for a minute, and then Taft, who you've all gotten to meet, he's out on the scene in the city, getting to talk to some of the people out there and gauge what it's like in Brisbane right now. And Brooke is over there as well. So good group. Molly's writing a story on Brazil. So everybody's been busy tonight, and that's why I'm down here in the lobby.
So since you last joined us, what's it been like looking at, we talked about minnows last time. We talked about those first timers, seeing the results that you're seeing from 30,000 feet over the last couple of days. What's it been like for you?
Right now, I'm looking for games where both teams score at this point. We've seen a lot of, 0-0, 1-0, 2-0. We've seen 4 zeros and 6 zeros, but we haven't seen a lot of the 2-1. So what I'm excited about right now is Canada, Ireland in a 1-1, and that we've had some offense, and I'm guessing you're doing the show, so you haven't seen Katie McCabe's goal yet, but I'm very excited for you to see that. She scored on a corner kick.
Okay.
So that was Ireland's first goal.
An Olympico. We like Olympicos.
Yes. So seeing that tonight's been exciting, but a lot of the stuff around Brisbane, like the fan fest they have, we've had a bit of a layoff since the game Saturday to the game tomorrow, but they've had concerts going pretty much the entire day, showing games, the atmosphere, the signage. I told you I can't go anywhere without seeing the Matildas branding in this World Cup somewhere. Now I can't shop anywhere. I've been walking out of bags, out of stores with a bag that's got like Ellie Carpenter's face on it, and some of the players. So it's those kinds of things that it's really got a presence here. It's been magical.
And for those that might have missed out, why you are down there and why your merry band is down there. Break out the why and what kind of an opportunity this is for you and the merry band of Bulldogs down there for the group stage.
Absolutely. So it's a group of students from the UGA Sports Media Program. There's 17 total. It's about a dozen writers, and the rest are photographers. And we have come down through a program with the University of Georgia and, Grady College and the Sports Media Certificate, partnered with the Associated Press. So we've been writing and providing coverage, doing stuff on game days, but a lot of our responsibility is the day-to-day of the event. A lot of people are covering the game days, but we're covering every single day of the tournament, whether it's game day or not. So getting that experience has been huge, having the opportunity for us, with the AP syndicating the work, and we have bylines on everything we do. So it's going out to, ABC News and Washington Post and Yahoo Sports and USA Today and those types of outlets, Toronto Star, that can pick it up. So it's an opportunity for us to develop and get to see this coverage, and really appreciate it. And we appreciate you for the support.
Oh no, it's fun because for us, we get to let everybody know what's going on down there in Brisbane and all the other locales. And yes, stay hydrated. Absolutely. Hydration is big.
I'm trying to.
Hydration is huge. I imagine that Taft, after getting all these hints from Bam down there, I don't even know. Do we want to know what your roommate's been up to ever since he got all these helpful hints?
Oh, I don't ask. Actually, last time when I told you I saw him in the lobby, he told me he didn't leave the lobby, so he was just hanging out. So Taft he's all over the place, and sometimes he knows how to have a night in and just enjoy time with all of us whenever he gets it.
When it comes to, right now we're in the middle of match day 2. And I know that we're looking at surprises, both good and bad. And we talk about all those first-time teams that are getting the results and making life difficult for a lot of the big names. When you've had the chance to kind of step away from your Australia coverage, and we'll get back to that in just a little bit, who have fans gravitated toward underdogs? Have the writers gravitated toward underdog stories? Who are you guys keeping your eyes on when you're not doing Australia coverage? Who else are you staring at and sitting there and going, okay, that intrigues me, and you have to leave the U.S. out of it. who else has intrigued you when it comes to your viewing of the storylines of the Women's World Cup?
To me, Haiti for sure. That's one that I can speak to like firsthand from covering Haiti and England and looking at the fight they put up and talking to England players and coaches after. They said the other teams are going to have trouble. It's between them. It's Jamaica. It's Nigeria's about to play Australia, and they've got a very good chance to at least get 1 point tomorrow. So those are some of the teams I'm looking at because Nigeria is one that's always been in the World Cup, but they haven't been to that next level of the World Cup, making semifinals or those kinds of things. So I look at Jamaica. I've been intrigued by Jamaica and what they're able to do so far, and the Reggae Girls and their brand, and having, of course, I believe a local player as well from Chamblee High School on that Jamaican team, Solai Washington. So we got to see her state championship game. I was there with your friends, Jessica Charman, Jason Longshore. So we got to watch Solai together. So of course I'm keeping my eye on that because of being from Atlanta and that local interest. So those are a few of the teams that I've been most intrigued by just from a personal, non-reporter standpoint.
All right, so back to your reporter standpoint. When it comes to Australia and what you're staring at there, you go through the Matildas with match day 1, heading into match day 2. What has it been like for them prepping, knowing that the group is what the group is right now?
Well, the group is what the group is, and then we also had news. I guess it would have been overnight for you all, but we have Mary Fowler now out with a concussion, and then Ivy Luik out with a concussion. So, for context, Mary Fowler and Courtney Vine were the people that had to step up for Sam Kerr when they announced her injury, and Sam Kerr's got to miss another game, and Mary Fowler's the one that's scored international caps. I think it's about 1 goal in every 4 matches, and she's only 20, and she's already on a World Cup roster for the second time for the Matildas. So losing her is another big blow, and it's right before, announced the day before match day 2 for Australia. So right now it's the team looking at, okay, they've got to rally around these injuries, and the big question, where are the goals going to come from? To me, I'm looking at Caitlin Ford. If she has a good game, Australia's got a chance at 3 points. If she doesn't have a good game, I'm thinking that, Nigeria's got a real shot to make their move if they're going to advance from Group B. And that could be a really big day for Nigeria tomorrow.
Jared,
so I'm concerned.
Okay. So Jared has now joined us here in hour number 2. And yes, Jared, I had to start things massively early this morning because of high school football coming up later today that Luke knows all about. You know all about. Luke Winstel joining us from Brisbane. We're talking about all of the things that are going on. All Matildas all the time. What's on your mind this morning?
As far as the Matildas getting ready for this, I know I'm talking about the Matildas being getting people healthy and making them ready. What's the anticipation with Ireland on deck? And Ireland hit Olympico early this morning. I'm assuming your roommate is actively losing his mind.
Yeah, he's there covering it. Yeah.
Yeah, but what's the anticipation of that game for Australia, where it could kind of be kind of a coronation to get out of the group stage, but Ireland apparently does not want to make it easy on anyone.
Yeah, I mean, Ireland right now, I guess they're just starting up the second half here against Canada. Got that on the screen right over here. So it'll be Australia-Nigeria tomorrow, and that match that we're looking at of Nigeria just being the fast team that was able to defend Canada very well, but lost the defender at the end of the game on a red card. And that matchup is one that's very intriguing. It's 2 teams that, Nigeria's defense has really worked to their advantage, and then people that know the Matildas would say they've got at least 2 world-class defenders on the outside with Ellie Carpenter and Steph Catley, who's the fill-in captain. So when you look at that matchup, it's one that really could go any direction. It would have been Australia with a heavy favorite, if not for the injuries that we were talking about. But right now with Ireland, just like I was saying with Nigeria, they've got their chance to make the move for the 3 points here to make things competitive. And we've seen it with Group A, and now we might see it with Group B, where by the end of the night it could be totally wide open, and you look through all your scenarios of what could happen. And last night I was talking to Taft about it, my roommate, and we were saying, I was driving myself crazy trying to figure out what I thought might happen or what might go, because the group really is so open right now. It's been really impressive just the parity that we've had. I think this is the best parity we've seen so far in a Women's World Cup.
All right, so Bam is dropping a couple of questions, as he always does. And Bam lets us know. Bam is doing math. And he says, an Australia win tomorrow, they top the group if Canada and Ireland end in a draw. Vera Poe looking concerned in the Vera Poe cutaway in the 47th minute. So a question for you, Luke, from BAM. When you coming back for a holiday, and will you bring everyone from the show with you? That's the big question.
Oh man, good question. Hey, maybe
Tell you
next
what,
summer.
I'll come when the Ashes are played in Australia. Bam, we'll go do that together.
There you go. Maybe next summer. We'll see about that. But yeah, for Australia, I mean, pretty much the deal is they win tomorrow. They're all set. You get the 6 points. You feel like you're in really, really good position. And that's where they feel like against Canada. We even heard one of the players, it might have been a little slip up in the press conference, but talking about how, they'd love to win and then they'd have a chance to rest players against Canada. So that was something that, is something that's in the back of people's minds. You get to 6 points if you're Australia and you feel very, very good about where you stand in the group. So that's definitely the big thing of just get through tomorrow. See if you can get those 3 points, and then you don't have to worry about the injuries.
No doubt about it. When it comes to covering the World Cup, what have you learned about covering big ticket items that you may not have known before? Because I know you, and I know that you go and you're big into recruiting. You're a recruit, Nick, and you go to these big events with a lot of athletes and things, but yours is more of the reporting of the individual. When it comes to doing something like this, when you are part of a massive gaggle of humanity that is trying to cover stories and come up with stories and things like that, what have you learned about covering big ticket items that you and your classmates may not have understood or gotten to experience before?
The biggest thing for me personally, and I've been helped out by the AP having these high editorial standards, and the idea that when you go out and cover things, you can't just report it. You've got to have a real angle to it, and you have to be advancing a story. So the injury news, for example, on Fowler and Luik for Australia broke right before the open practice in the morning today, around 11 o'clock a.m. Well, we had the press conference at 3, so the story's already out. And I basically was told either I advance the story or I don't have a story. So I had to take it into an angle of, Caitlin Ford. That's what I talked about. First off, what's next? What does it mean? Taking a real angle to it, not just saying, hey, they're hurt, this is bad, and trying to really take it forward and take it further than that and talk to multiple people for every story. So having those standards has really pushed me to really go further with it. I think a lot of us have noticed that. So that's been the big thing.
Jared Smith for Luke Winstel in Brisbane, go.
And as far as the other teams, I mean, what's been the reaction to some of the other clubs, like as far as where you are? Any other club developed a kind of like a club nation developed kind of a cult following where people are kind of all in on them?
It seems like, you mean for the Matilda or any nation or for Australia?
Any nation outside of Australia. Like I know the Australians are going nuts for Australia, but any other nation, like it feels like every World Cup we have at least one team where everyone's like, that's my second team now. We've adopted them.
Well, for people in Australia that we've seen a lot of the locals, it feels like England's their second team, which, kind of makes sense because of the English influence historically in the area. So they felt like, it's been a bit of a home feel for them, not as much as Australia. I've seen a lot of people so far, at least in the Brisbane area, seem to be impressed by Haiti. I know I've brought them up several times, but they're one of those teams that I think, when people think of Haiti, they think about, historically the country has had a bit of a rough go of it, and they haven't been known for their women's soccer, but now, people have been impressed. So that's one of the ones that I've taken away from what I've seen here so far.
All right, so now folks want to know about the bio. What part of Atlanta? Abby's asking, what part of Atlanta are you from?
Yep. So I went to St. Pius High School. So if you're familiar with that area, I live like a mile away off Shallowford Road, northeast Atlanta. So lived there ever since I was born. Yeah, and then, of course, moving to, Milledgeville for college and then Athens to go to UGA.
Okay. So let's see. So if you were going to a DeKalb County school, would you have gone to Lakeside?
Yeah, Lakeside, Atlanta. You got it.
There you go, brother. Class of 1980 something or other. That's me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He means 1880 something or another.
Yes, 1880 something. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
I had my shoes thrown out in traffic by the bullies when I was standing out in front of the high school waiting for the bus. So I know exactly what's going on there in Lakeside and Shallowford. So once again, ITP, well done.
That's it.
So you mentioned the concussion protocol issues. the injury to Sam Kerr. We don't know if Sam is going to be available. They said that she's going to be out for the first 2 match days. So then who fills that void with concussion protocols in place? And where is DEFCON right now between one, which is, if I remember my war games correctly, DEFCON 1 is everything's safe in the world. DEFCON 5 is that we've got to scramble the bombers, get sacked on the line, and make sure that we don't get attacked. Where is the DEFCON right now when it comes to the Matildas with these concussion protocols and no Sam Kerr?
I'm going to go maybe DEFCON 4
Okay.
because right now, one of the things that's been a little controversial here, and this is something that's a little more of a niche discussion for the Matildas fans, but when they came out with their 23, they included Kaya Simon. And people say, Kaya Simon? They're like, why did they include her? Because she's rehabbing from an ACL injury. And they said straight out of the gate, she won't be able to go until the later rounds of the tournament. But they wanted her because she's really good on PKs and she can be a game changer. So they were willing to take the risk. And, Coach Tony Gustafsson today, head coach, the presser, had to answer to that. And he's had to answer to it multiple times of why would you include somebody that couldn't, we got a Canada goal. Why wouldn't you include or why would you include somebody that can't go in the group stage for depth purposes, a striker? Now you lost a couple of strikers, so now your only established striker is Caitlin Ford. So that might mean a formation change, and they've hinted at that today. But obviously, on a MD-1, nobody's going to go really in depth on a tactical change. So there's a chance that they might go from instead of having 2 up top to just 1. And that's been a discussion. There's also the discussion that maybe Von Egmond, who came off the bench in the Ireland match, would slot into the starting lineup now and be one that helps replace. There's also Chidiac, one of the younger players that could come in, but it's likely going to be Von Egmond to start. And she can provide a boost, but a little older of a player, and they lack the explosion that they had with Kerr and Fowler. And, Fowler really provides the explosiveness. Kerr's always in the right place at the right time and can put it in the back of the net under pressure. So missing that, I'd say DEFCON 4. Like for Australia, it is legitimately – we know Caitlin Ford can score, playing in Women's Super League. She's very good, and she scored twice this year for Australia in their international competition, but everyone knows that she's the focal point. So someone's going to have to build off of her. Courtney Vine's going to have to really show up this game after a tough showing for her individually against Ireland. But right now I'd say DEFCON 4. Like it's offensively, it's not a clear picture at all.
And for those that are kind of watching us, kind of watching what's going on, goal in the 53rd by Canada, great entry to inside the 18. Leon slots it home just past the keeper. Keeper did get a piece of it. So it is 2-1 Canada. And now we are late 55th heading into the 56th minute. So, so if you were hoping for chaos, you're getting chaos. That's the bottom line, is we're getting ready for match day 2 and 3. Now, when you look at the tournament on the whole, you mentioned everything that's been going on, getting ready for matches. How has it been for you and for your teammates navigating Brisbane, looking at all the partying and the activities and the extracurricular stuff? What has that been like for you guys to see the off-the-field stuff, the fan interaction, and how Brisbane specifically has been navigating that to make sure the fan experience is what it should be?
It's been good. I was hoping you were going to ask me how good I am at navigating public transportation.
How good are you at navigating public transportation, sir?
I'm so bad at it, John. I don't know how you get to be bad at it, but I've had a rough go with the buses of being, I'm on the wrong side of the road, or I take the wrong bus, or I stop at the wrong place, or I'm looking at my phone and then I miss my stop. So I've had any number of really, really poor mistakes in the transportation side of things, but I've never been late. It's usually on the way home that I'm making these mistakes. So, knock on wood. But yeah, in terms of the city, to your actual question here, the city overall, I mean, the nightlife is fantastic. I don't know that from experience, but just walking through.
You've heard from people inside your group.
Or outside of it.
Or outside of your group.
Yeah. I've heard it's very good. There's a lot going on in Fortitude Valley. And I know, I think Bam mentioned Fortitude Valley. We're actually staying in Fortitude Valley at one of the hotels there. So we're right in the middle of all that. So overall, they've navigated it well. You know, the traffic here is, I'm coming obviously from Atlanta traffic, and it's nothing like that. It's much more mellow here. So in terms of the city handling it, you know, they've had the infrastructure, they have their own like busways and stuff that run to the stadium, so you can go straight to it from wherever you are, and getting in and out's easy. The Fan Fest is right on the water, and it's really a pleasant experience if you want to be a part of it. It's not hard to find, you know, Brisbane Stadium or Lang Park, whatever you prefer, or the Fan Fest, or some of the team stores and the pop-up shops, and wherever you want to be. It's not hard to find. It's not hard to get around. It's been crowded, but it's never felt claustrophobic, so it's felt like a healthy crowd throughout. So I've been impressed with the way the city's handled it, and it's also a bit of a trial run as well, because they'll be hosting the Olympics here, Brisbane 2032. So, you know, they better be ready, because they've got less than 10 years now to prepare, and they've been ready for this event, no doubt.
You've got less than 10 years to prepare for an Olympics. I know you sit there and we say that and we kind of say it kind of jokingly, but infrastructure and all that kind of stuff, you've got to get your head screwed on straight early to figure it all out.
Yeah, it takes time.
Jared Smith for Luke Winstel. Go.
As I say, you're going to keep talking up Olympics at this point, because geez, it feels like that's where we're going next. Shifting away from Australia for a second to your country of origin, what are your expectations for tonight? Well, tonight, today, whatever, however time tomorrow for you.
Tomorrow for Luke.
I was going to say, I don't know if I can handle any more tonight after this Canada-Ireland game, but heading into, you know, the USA and that matchup, I've been saying I'm just kind of watching those as a fan. So I've enjoyed watching Sophia Smith and, you know, the whole gang of some of the older stars, you know, mixed in. So I don't have a ton of analysis for that. I'm just, you know, glad to watch it. And that's one of the few things that I've gotten to do and get to do down here, go watch on a big screen or on somebody's computer and just, you know, sit back and enjoy it. So that's kind of the way I'm taking it.
All right. Abby's got another question for you, and she wants you to be honest.
Uh-oh.
So be honest about it. That's a two-part question.
Uh-oh.
Is soccer your number one sport, or would you rather cover another sport first? And did you grow up playing a sport?
Okay. Lots of good questions. Okay. Football is a sport I cover the most, and part of it's because of where we live. It's the biggest market. I always tell people soccer is my fun sport. That's the one that I enjoy, whether it's watching or whether it's playing. Like, that's the one sport right now. We have a ball. Taft bought a ball. So that's the one sport that I'll, you know, text everybody and say, hey, let's go and play. And we've also played some Aussie rules football. We had a guy named Gary. Shout out to Gary. He invited us. We went over to the beach and we played yesterday and got the whole trial run, and it was a bit of a humbling experience for most of us. Taft caught on pretty quickly, I will say, but you'd be proud of him. So I think soccer is my fun sport. That's the sport I enjoy the most. Football is the one that I cover the most. I think in terms of coverage, it's just kind of wherever the market is for me. But in terms of what I enjoy, when I go home, I want to turn on a soccer match more so than anything. So that's where I stand. I grew up a soccer player, I didn't make the team at St. Pius, so I was playing club and academy the whole time and just enjoying that side of things because it was so competitive in my years and just wasn't quite up to par there. So played that for fun, played basketball like church league, CMLA, for any of the Catholic school league people out there. That's how I came up, you know, scoring a good maybe 2 to 3 points a game the whole way. And I think that pretty much covers it, yeah.
So did you play TYSA, or where did you play when you weren't in the
yeah, that's where I started. And then when I got over to academy, I was playing CFC, or Chiefs Football Club. Yep.
Okay.
So that was fun. Yeah,
right.
That was my rec league.
Yes. All right. So we're going to let you go because a lot of folks are fired up about Atlanta United.
I would be too.
Let folks know about the bylines, the stories, where they can find you. We know about @Luke Winstel on the Twitters. So what do folks need to know, and when are you coming back?
Sure. So we've got our entire UGA team, and then there's also a group from Penn State as well that are helping the Associated Press provide Women's World Cup coverage. And that's, if you go to Associated Press and go to sports, and you have the soccer page, there's a Women's World Cup page, and that's where you can find all of our stuff. A lot of work, I would even venture to say about the majority of work on that page is done by college students now that are interning over here. So that's the way to find it, Associated Press, AP Sports. And then for me, I'm Luke Winstel. I'm on social media, just at my name, @Luke Winstel. And
@Luke Winstel.
That's how it is. Yep. Thank you for having me on.
All right. So when are you coming back, and who are you bringing with you?
Ooh, good question. Let's see.
As I've told you this entire run in the group stage, you've got golden ticket, you've got the 9:05. That's the easy part in all of this. So at 11:05 p.m. your time, you can always hop on. So what are we looking at? Are we looking at Thursday our time, Friday our time? What are we staring at?
Let's see. I've got to check. I know I'm supposed to be going to maybe an Aussie Rules game on Friday.
Ooh,
So we'll see.
actually, you know what? You might be able to see which. You're in Brisbane, not Sydney. Okay, so you're Brisbane Lions, I think. Okay, so good, cool. Go to that game, yeah.
And it might be a junior game or something. We were just like, we have to go. Saturday, we're working a match again. We've got France and Brazil. That'll be a blockbuster. So I'll let you know. I'm not totally sure on days yet, but I'll get back to you. It'll be sometime soon.
All right. Well, then let's do this before the weekend starts. Why don't you come back Friday night, your time? So come back Friday morning 9:05. So Friday morning Friday night 11:05 your time. Before you and Taft go out and party, you can come back. You come back with us Friday night 11:05. You'll set up the weekend with us, and you'll let us know what happened watching the U.S. and all this other kind of stuff. So Friday night 11:05, Friday morning 9:05. You'll come back with us and talk, set up the weekend, and go over the last 2 days. How about that?
All right, I think that'll work. We should be home from the game then. So.
All right, and like I said, if you're not, and it turns into 12:05 and 10 or 12 midnight and 10 o'clock, that's fine too. We just have the one segment that we traditionally have at 11:30 your time. So it can be 9, it can be 10, it can be 11 p.m., it can be midnight. Whatever happens, just let me know.
We'll work it out. Awesome. Well, thank you for having me on.
As always, Luke Winstel from Brisbane, at Luke Winstel. Follow his stuff. He's writing important things for the next generation and for all of us to keep stuff on a daily basis. That's Luke. He's out of Brisbane, and it's very, very cool. All right. So, Jarrett, we spent the hour number 1, and I just kind of opened it. It was like open phones.
Well, because last night sucked. Yeah, I mean, that'll do it.
Yes. And so I've gone through some of the stuff that have been going on. Obviously, folks have been calling for folks' heads and things like that. When you look back now that you've had some time to look back at the match last night, a couple of things that I have not had the chance to get into. We have not gotten into the Celestial Guillotine. We can get into that. Also, the lack of physicality that was not seen for a double negative. The physicality that was not seen in the match last night against Inter Miami to knock them off their pins and knock them off their game. That did not happen. And you've got to see that in this match against Cruz Azul on the weekend. So now from 30,000 feet and 12 hours difference, what's in your mind?
Well, you're going to see physicality because Cruz Azul is going to be physical with you. And if you're not physical with them, that's a more damning indictment than anything because you're going to come in. The Marca article was that Tuca Ferretti isn't a win or get fired. He isn't an I quit match, basically.
Yeah.
At this point, with Atlanta on Saturday. They're already going to come in and be physical. And if you can't be physical back at them, then that's rough. And it doesn't mean you have to turn it into a street fight. You don't have to turn into Philadelphia overnight. This doesn't know what that means, but you're going to have to come in and get stuck in challenges and put a body on somebody. I thought they showed Messi and Busquets way too much damn respect last night.
Yeah.
I get it. Messi's the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not debating this at all. Low-key, Miami's going to be a blast to watch because their defense is still bad.
Yes.
One of the bigger things that really pissed me off last night was Atlanta's ineptitude and tentativeness in front of goal. You almost scored in the first couple minutes when Tyler Wolf puts it in the back of the net, but Yorgos was offside. It's a good run. He just starts a little bit early. Great finish from Tyler. Hate that it didn't count. Lennon hits the crossbar. He hits the crossbar a couple minutes later. Kind of felt good about life. And then you didn't convert. Miami did on the counter.
Mm-hmm.
Messi's just messy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get countered again. Messi is
from Busquets. Yeah.
You get countered. You don't put a body on Busquets, and then you just get messied again. And then you actually control 10 plus minutes of the end of the first half. Create some decent looks. Can't put a shot on frame. Could not hit water falling out of a boat.
Mm-hmm.
And Miami goes and gets a third goal. honestly, that part kind of felt like the Charlotte game in reverse. The Charlotte game in Charlotte that Atlanta won, where they were up 2-0. Charlotte controlled the end of the first half, and then Caleb Wiley goes and punches one in right before halftime and just rips the wind out of the sails. Now, these aren't identical comparisons. They're not meant to be, but Atlanta couldn't find anything in terms of putting the ball on frame consistently. And Drake Callender has to be challenged because he's a damn good goalkeeper.
Yep.
And you have to challenge him and you have to put the ball on frame. They didn't. And every time they failed to do so, Miami came right back and was able to put it in the back of the net. The third goal was beautiful. I mean, I'm not even as mad about that one because Homeboy just took that off the half volley and put it the upper 90 across the frame. That was gorgeous.
And at the same time, and I talked about it.
I got bigger problems than that goal.
Yeah, and when I was talking about that goal in hour number one, it was to the point to where you're figuring out how to address Messi and Busquets. If you give them space, you see what happens. If you go tight on them, it creates the positional gravity that we were talking about. Taylor ends up being the benefactor of that and hammers it home for goal number 3 in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, he creates a gravity. And there are two philosophies here. You can either give Messi space, he's going to hurt you, or you can crowd him out, and he's going to find someone else who can hurt you. And Taylor, it's a Golazo, is what it is. I'm not as upset about the third one just because that's, you know what, you earned that one. The other one's not so much. And then you generate chances. You get to the damn spot. Atlanta's 25% on the season from the spot this year.
Yeah.
Almost comically bad from the penalty spot. It's amazing. And frankly, of the penalties they've had, I think that's the first one that's been saved, by the way. Because
you're right.
Yeah, no, it is. Because you've got one in Nashville. You had Thiago missed the goal completely in his first penalty. I think that was Red Bulls, maybe? I forget who it was.
Mm-hmm.
He missed the goal completely. Luis Araujo missed the goal completely. At least this one was on frame.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could not hit water falling out of a boat. You didn't finish. And what could have been a fun game turns into you getting countered to death and not doing your individual jobs, combined with the fact that you didn't finish. And you got in good positions. You had the first two chances. You have Caleb Wiley getting inside. And Wiley's very left-footed. I get it. But at that position, to lay it off, no. I know it's your weak foot. You got to give it a shot, man. From that position, you got to give it a shot.
And that was
Barry coming down the right. You got to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
You got to, because you need something. Put the ball on frame. I'm begging you to at that point.
Yeah, and that was the other point that I wanted to make about this. 20 minutes to go, Canada leading Ireland 2-1, is that there were times when Atlanta United would have possession. They would be inside the 18. Their speed would expose the back line of Inter Miami, but you would have moments of deference. Instead of taking the shot, there was the extra pass. There was too many extra passes. There was too much thinking going on about, okay, I need to lay this off. I need to do this. I need to do this. Instead of just going ahead and shooting and challenging Drake Callender, that's what you ended up with, I think, too many times, is you had too many folks who wanted to have the extra pass, who wanted to make the extra pass instead of just going ahead and shooting the ball and putting it on target.
Yeah, and the one that really aggravated me, I'll pick on Santi Sosa for the second goal.
Yeah,
it's Messi running down open. Sosa's trying to chase him down. No one steps to him. Sosa's trying to chase him down. Sosa gets there right as he plays the ball out wide. And then Messi, because he's Messi, and look, Messi didn't do anything revolutionary. He cut back and made a run against the grain in the box. That's not reinventing the wheel. It's being good at your job. It's doing your job, frankly. Sosa doesn't go with him. He does the thing that Parata had done this season that really pissed me off early in the season and in preseason, in that he trails off of the guy he's marking, starts to go to the ball, and then doesn't, and just kind of hangs out there in the ether. I forget who it was in the box, closes down Joseph, but Joseph very wisely dummies it for Messi, who taps it in. If you're going to track Messi down like that, especially in the box, you got to go with him. You got to know he's going to move, and you got to know he is going to be constantly moving. For all the jokes we get about Messi walks around the field a lot, hey, look, when the ball turns over and it's game time, Messi's in Thunderdome and Messi's moving.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he just walks everywhere when the ball's in play for him and he's got a chance to be a dangerous player. He's going to be moving, and he was moving in the box, and Sosa just trailed off. Nobody picked him up. I don't know where Sosa was going. I don't know. It was a really annoying game to watch, not necessarily just because you lost 4-0, but because, I mean, yeah, that doesn't help, of course, but it's just you had some half chances to make it fun. You had chances to make fireworks, and you didn't do it. And even from the spot late, dude, just pick a damn corner and hit it. I swear, just look, I know Messi, when he takes penalties, a lot of times will just walk up there and he just Jedi mind tricks people. I swear to God, he does. It's beautiful. And Messi will just roll the damn thing in. Pick a corner and go. It's 4-0. Pick a corner and go.
Yeah.
I don't have the cholesterol for this. Saturdays, you got a regen before Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Show me something.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have to bring physicality that game. And if you get out physicaled by Cruz Azul, that might happen. But if you get out physicaled and you just kind of roll with it, no bueno, man. Like you need to get an early goal in that game, and you need to try and dictate it. And I think my annoying part with this team right now is go look at the Philly game.
Yeah,
they brought the lumber at Philadelphia.
And folks in the timeline have mentioned the difference defensively in the midfield since Franco Ibarra has departed.
Yes. Well, I don't want to say I told you so, because we were yelling about him last year too, and early this year. Like, Franco Ibarra was a good midfielder. I don't know what the future is. I don't know what Muyamba is going to – like, Muyamba might be that guy who can bring some fire to that midfield, because you need somebody too, because Sosa's not that guy right now. Joseto has not been that guy. I was all for – one of the things last night, when it was 4-0, this is one of the things Gonzalo Pineda is a firm believer in his style. He is going to even down. So one of the reasons Atlanta gets, when they've lost their games and gotten pumped this year, they don't go into a shell down 2-0.
Right.
They're going to keep playing their game, hell or high water. They'd rather try and chase 2 or 3 goals than worry about giving up another one.
Yep.
At a certain point, though, you know what? This ain't your night. Put the kids in.
Mm-hmm.
Put Jay Fortune in the midfield. See what he's got. Because right now I know what I'm getting with Joseto, and it can be good, and sometimes it can't, and sometimes it's not good enough. Marcelo sitting on the bench. At that point, go with. I would love to have gone with the kids, all of them,
and
all of them.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if you were trying to be physical. Do you start Ozzy Alonso on Saturday night?
If Ozzy can go, yeah.
If Ozzy can give me 45 out of the blocks.
If Ozzy can give you 45 out of the blocks, even 50 would be great. If he can do that, yeah, I'm starting him. If Muyamba can give me anything, I'm starting him. And maybe you change it up. Maybe you play, maybe you play it in kind of a 4-3-3 and be more secure with maybe 2 holding midfielders and more of a double pivot with Muyamba and Ozzy, or Muyamba and Sosa, and ask Sosa to, in that scenario, you ask Sosa to get forward more. Maybe you stick with this, 3-4-3 box. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, and at the same time, and I was talking about this in hour number 1. The last thing you want is to be knocked out of Leagues Cup before
with 3 weeks and nothing to do.
Right.
You got nothing but your thoughts.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that.
No.
Even if you do get knocked out by Cruz Azul, I need you to do it with blood in your mouth and blood on your hands. At least walk out knowing that if you lose them in a shootout and that's game over, but you busted your ass for 90 minutes, at least you have that to cling to. But because Cruz Azul has been a hot mess in the Liga MX.
Yeah, they're dead last. They're dead blanking
yes.
last.
Tuco, there's a reason Tuco's job's up on the block here. I know people have asked about Gonzo's job. I'm not wild about firing coaches middle of the season, especially 10 games left in the league season, unless he has lost the locker room.
Right.
That's when, for me, that's when I'm firing coaches midseason or beyond midseason at this point. We're in the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
If a coach has lost the locker room, then yeah, you have those conversations. If he hasn't lost the locker room, I don't like doing it at this point of the season. That's me. I understand y'all have different opinions on it.
Yeah. Bam is. I was going to say, wait a minute, Bam. Bam was giving an update, and he had credited another goal to Canada, and I'm like, wait a second, are you that far ahead of me here? But no, it's still 2-1. 2-1 Canada with 13 plus to go. So that's what we're staring at right now from the Estadio Rectangular with Ireland and Canada right now as they're heading into the 79th minute. And that's
come on, Ireland.
Yeah, that's
ruin Canada's day.
Yeah.
If I can ruin 2 days, I'm ruining Canada's day and I'm ruining England's day. But I'm also in a pissy mood because of last night, so I'm in the mood to ruin days.
Yes.
What Miami did was fun. It was a bit more it was at times a bit more dangerous on the counter, and that's what you got to be right now. And then once they got up with the ball, they did what we've seen Atlanta do when they're on, which Atlanta's been schizophrenic. But when they're on and they can get a lead and they can control the game with the ball, that's what Miami did. They did a good job of it last night. They did a really good job of it.
And the thing is, when you have a lead against a team that is older, I mean, you're the older team and you have a lead, you can dictate pace of play, and you're not burning that fuel as much with that lead, and you can have possession. I talked about the end number.
Messi was gassed too at the end.
Yeah,
respect to hell to Messi because he was gassed at the end. Dude came in and played like 30 minutes the other night. A couple days later, he went out there and he was trying to play 90. Couldn't quite get it over the line. Dude, respect to the man. Yeah, Busquets, same thing. But I really do want to see them play other teams in MLS, and we'll see them in the tournament. And this isn't meant to be a shot at Miami, even though I've spent a lot of time making fun of Miami. They still have defense. They still have defensive issues they've got to work out.
And McVay's red card that he picked up that led to the PK chance for Atlanta United. McVay now has created a problem for that back line in their next match because McVay is suspended for their next match in Leagues Cup, and you don't know the extent of the Sergei Krivtsov injury. And so you could have two guys on your back line out for your next match when that is because of the silly thing that McVay did in bringing down Derek Etienne.
They'll cross that bridge when they get there because you know why? Because they did the important part, which is to win their first two games and be in a position to get through. Okay, they still won their first two games and got through.
Yeah,
that's a problem for future them.
Yeah.
They did the job. They did the job that Atlanta's got to do.
Yeah,
and I do have to go back to the real world here in a second.
All right. So any other things on your mind before you go? And I'll see you tomorrow morning at a normal time as opposed to coming on at 8:00 and going from 8:05 to 10:05. What else is on your mind before you go? Could be on anything.
We got the U.S. play tonight. Hopefully that goes well.
Yeah, there's that. So we'll keep an eye on that. That's late. We'll go into juice boxes coming up in just a little bit. By the way, Bam says Ashes are in Australia November 2025 to January 2026.
I'll have to come before then at some point, but we'll come down there at the very minimum for that.
There you go.
Laugh at the English.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so we will see you again tomorrow morning at some point.
Yep.
All right, that's Jarrett Smith. And so Jarrett heads back to the real world. It's great to see the conversation that you guys are having with each other this morning about Atlanta United. And that's one of the things that I always like to see involving the Twitch pitch is the conversation that you guys have with one another. And just to have this active back and forth that we have. 20 minutes to go. So, like I said, keep your comments coming. We got news of the morning here that we've got to get into. And Hutch dropped a hee-haw reference in his thoughts about Atlanta United. And so all I can do now is think about it being sung by Buck Owens and Roy Clark and Junior Samples. So that's where we are. So 2-1, 8 to go, plus any added time off the top. News that we have before we go. Andrew Jong, Washington Post. Joe Louis, the 86-year-old billionaire and owner of Spurs, has been indicted in New York on charges of orchestrating a brazen insider trading scheme, U.S. officials said late Tuesday. Louis abused access to corporate boardrooms by providing inside information to romantic partners, his personal assistants, his private pilots and friends. Damian Williams, the U.S. attorney for the SDNY. Man, when the Southern District of New York is involved, yeah. So when SDNY is involved, that's what you're staring at. Video statement posted Tuesday on Exeter, whatever. I'm still calling it Twitter. That he ain't paying me, and other folks have the patent. So it was posted to the 280-character Bird app. Williams said, quote, "Those folks then traded on that inside information, made millions of dollars on the stock market because thanks to Louis, those bets were a sure thing." Louis faces 19 counts, including securities fraud, with each count carrying a maximum prison term between 5 and 25 years, according to Nicholas Biasi. And it looks like it was partially cleared. The set piece from about 22 by Canada, 6.5 and counting. Nicholas Biasi, spokesman for U.S. Attorney's Office for SDNY. David Zornow, attorney for Louis, said in a short statement that the U.S. government had made an egregious error in judgment and in charging Mr. Louis, and that Louis has come to the U.S. voluntarily, quote, to answer these ill-conceived charges. The Tavistock Group, an investment organization principally owned by Louis, could not be reached for comment late Tuesday. How do you reach an investment organization? In an emailed response to questions about the case, Spurs described the allegations against Louis as a legal matter unconnected with the club, end quote. Prosecutors say Louis sought to profit by sharing non-public information about the Australian agricultural company Mirati Therapeutics and Solid Biosciences. Representatives for those companies could not be immediately released early Wednesday. All right, so that's the news for Spurs. News involving Women's World Cup. I know that we've got to get into juice boxes for today and the times that are attached. And it is Japan winning 2-0 over Costa Rica at 1 o'clock this morning. They were a big favorite, no surprise. Spain put 5 on Zambia this morning, and this is where we'll discuss what's going on with Zambia. Spain was a minus 10,000 going up against Zambia this morning, and once again, 2-1 in the 85th, heading to the 86th minute. So news out of Zambia. Rob Harris has been very, very busy this morning. He was on Kay Burley's morning show discussing what's going on with Joe Louis, but he's also discussing what's going on with our friends, with what's been going on with the Women's World Cup in the Zambian camp, and so it's been it has been definitely something that you got to keep an eye on here. And did I not upload it? I thought I uploaded it. Oh, here we go. I was trying to figure out what I filed it under. And so Rob Harris has the updates about what was going on in the Zambian camp leading up to this second match here in match day 2. Once again, here's Rob Harris at Sky with the concerns involving the head coach from Zambia.
A
coach at the Women's World Cup challenged on accusations of sexual misconduct before FIFA stepped in.
I'll ask you to restrict the questions to the football and to the tournament only for this press conference. I'll go to the next question.
But Zambia's World Cup debut has been overshadowed by reports Bruce Moape coerced players into having sex with him and made threats to deter them from speaking out. Moape calls the allegations fake, but questions linger about why he's still leading the team.
There's no way I can retire without, but for no reason. Maybe your reason it's because of what you are reading from the media or from the press.
And attempts to ask the captain were shut down by Zambia's media officer.
I think
Once again, I would request.
I think that we'll not take those questions.
After losing their opening game to Japan, Zambia next plays Spain in Auckland. FIFA won't comment on any investigation into the coach, but football's governing body has partnered with the UN to campaign to end violence against women, a message on some captains' armbands. For rights campaigners, FIFA's activism is not matched by the rigour of their own investigations.
FIFA is absolutely refusing to put in place good governance measures to get sexual abusers out of sport, as in Zambia. There is no confidence. There's no reason for confidence that FIFA can investigate and get these predators out of women's football.
The conduct of Ireland's coach has also come under scrutiny, with Vera Paul denying body shaming and bullying players while working in the US. Protests against poor treatment and underinvestment are rife in women's football. Spain had players threatening to quit. In the England camp, the Lionesses remain in dispute over bonuses. The World Cup platform being used across teams to challenge authority, advocate for change and create a safer sport. Rob Harris, Sky News.
All right, so that's Rob Harris, and I thought that I'd knocked the loop out, but I guess I had not. All right, and so Abby mentions she's upset about the Canadian Federation. I want them to win, but really like Ireland, so want them to tie. Now, here is what is going on with Canada soccer, and Abby mentioned that. And so what I do is I make sure to tell everybody to follow Rick Westhead. He is a mandatory follow on Twitter, and he is, and like I said, it's Twitter, and so it's R Westhead on the Bird app or the X app or whatever you want to call it. But Rick Westhead yesterday came out with a story. 2-1 Canada heading into the 90th minute. Canada Men's Soccer National Team Players Association, which has failed for the past year to reach a collective labor agreement with Canada Soccer, said it is demanding sponsors of the Federation and Canadian Soccer Business, CSB, stop using the names, images, and likenesses of the men's national team players in their marketing and advertising. Quote, instead of working toward a solution, given the current state of Canada soccer, we've been taken to task for raising these concerns and told we have an inflated view of ourselves, the players wrote in a statement provided to TSN on Tuesday. Canada Soccer is now also attempting to capitalize on the pressure of the Women's World Cup to force us into an inadequate deal. The Men's Players Association confirmed the timing of its statement was discussed with the women's national team player representatives. Players Association shared its perspective in a 2-page statement on the labor impasse that's dragged on for more than a year, and again condemned Canada Soccer's controversial media and sponsorship agreement with CSB, which was signed back in 2018 and will be in place through 2037 if CSB decides to expand the initial deal. All right, we're in added time, and it is still 2-1 Ireland with a rush. Pass was crossed. It was right to the top of the 6. It was grabbed by the Canada keeper, so we're at 2-1, waiting to see how many minutes we have added in this one. Canada up 2-1, and we're at 90+. So once again, remember, CSB pays Canada Soccer, thank you, Abby, you're probably a little ahead of me, an annual fee between $3 and $4 million, and in exchange, the private company, which is owned and controlled by Canadian Premier League owners, receives all of the revenue from national teams' media rights and sponsorships with 15 companies, including Nike, CIBC, Gatorade, GE, and Visa. And so this is another thing to keep an eye on. I'm going to post the link here in the Twitch pitch. And this is your required reading for the day when it comes to everything going on with the Canada men's team and the Canada national team. So we are in minute number 2 of 5 scheduled. So that's where we are with that. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo with players as we get you ready for everything going on today. We'll get you the juice boxes of the World Cup coming up in just a bit. Bayern Munich increasingly confident of signing Harry Kane, not concerned about reports of interest from PSG. Chief Exec Jan Christian Dresen, Technical Director Marco Nepe have stayed behind instead of joining the squad in Japan to arrange the £100 million deal for Harry Kane. PSG anticipating player plus cash offers for Mbappe from European clubs after the bid from Al Hilal, with Chelsea, United, Spurs, Inter Milan, Barcelona interested in the forward. Could you imagine 1 year at Barca before he goes to Real? David Raya being lined up by Bayern Munich, opening the door for Switzerland #1 Jan Sommer to join Inter Milan. Urawa Red Diamonds and Japan goalkeeper Zion Suzuki turned down a move to Manchester United. Chelsea close to agreeing to terms with Ajax for Mohamed Kudus, 22-year-old attracting interest from Arsenal. Manchester City have told Bernardo Silva they don't intend to sell him this summer, despite him being keen to move on. West Ham have had initial talks with Manchester United about signing Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay. Let's see. West Ham have been put off by the £40 million evaluation of McTominay. West Ham have a bid for Conor Gallagher rejected, confident they can beat Spurs to the England national signature. Crystal Palace interested in Crescencio Somerville and FC Augsburg midfielder Ruben Vargas. Southampton rejected a bid thought to be worth $35 million in add-ons from Liverpool for Romeo Lavia. Southampton wants $50. Liverpool's Fabinho moved to Al Ittihad is at risk, and the 29-year-old is set to resume preseason preps with the Reds. Remember the thing about his dogs. Germany midfielder Joshua Kimmich looks set to stay at Bayern after the 28-year-old said he was very sure he'd be playing for the Bundesliga club next year. Leeds want to add Carl Darlow to their ranks. That was addressed somewhat by Eddie Howe yesterday at the press conference here in Atlanta. He says he can't go into the season with 5 keepers, and he appreciates what Carl Darlow has meant to the club all this time. So it was an attempt to bring in the 32-year-old, minute and a half to go. Late change for Canada, still up 2-1. Arsenal, close to signing Gremio's midfielder Bitello, who'd been linked with a Serie A move. Mali's Albilal Toure has decided to join Atalanta from Almeria rather than Everton, and Everton are in talks to bring in Wilfred Gnonto from Leeds United. So what to watch before we go? It is, let's see. I'm going to wait till the end of the match here. We've got about a minute to go. Canada trying to run out the clock in the corner. Tottenham and Lion City Sailors has ended on CBS Sports Network. Once again tonight, 9 o'clock, USA Netherlands on Fox. FS1 has all of the matchups. They had all the matchups this morning. They've got Portland and Tigres in Leagues Cup at 10 tonight. ESPN Deportes has Las Palmas and Español a friendly at noon. Telemundo is your simulcaster for everything Women's World Cup, as is Universo and Peacock. TUDN and Unimas have Portland and Tigres at 10 o'clock. Season Pass has all your Leagues Cup action tonight, all 7 matches. Revs, Atletico San Luis, CF Montreal, DC United, NYC Toronto FC, Philadelphia Union Querétaro, all at 7:30. RS Monterrey's at 9:30. Timbers and Tigres at 10. Galaxy and León is at 10:30. Friendlies on the plus. We mentioned Las Palmas Español, Real Madrid, Manchester United at 8:30. Manchester United's backup keeper, his academy keeper, is under fire for puncturing the lung of the leading scorer last season for Wrexham, so they won't have his services at the beginning of the year. So suffice to say that Phil Parkinson, the manager for Wrexham, is pretty hot about that. It happened in a friendly at Snapdragon last night. Arsenal and Barcelona is at 10:30. USL Championship in the midweek. Pittsburgh, Indy 11 at 7. Oakland Roots, Vegas at 10. Sacramento and Phoenix at 11. USL League One, North Carolina, Northern Colorado's at 7. Forward Madison and South Georgia Tormenta is at 7. Peacock, once again, your simulcaster for World Cup action. Friendlies, Brentford, Brighton, 5:30. Fulham Villas at 7. Chelsea Newcastle's at 8:15. Once again, Brentford, Brighton, Chelsea Newcastle, Georgia. Wow, that's $1. Mercedes-Benz Stadium tonight. Looking forward to seeing a lot of you there for the Premier League Summer Series. We are now past the 5th minute, waiting to see what's going to happen here. I've heard, and Abby's heard that, they're stalling. Have heard that they'll have the women's national team on somewhere in the bins, just unsure of where as of yet. I don't know. Probably on the big screens, and I think maybe keep an eye on the Halo board too. So we'll see what happens here. 6:12 and counting. Really killing time here as Canada's trying to go top of the group at the Estadio Rectangular. And see what's going on here. The Irish squad is looking for One last rush, it looks like. Deflection, back line of 4 for Canada as Canada is trying to kill time. Last chance to dance inside the 18, big hops, and it looks like it's getting tracked down by Canada's keeper, and it is, and that probably will do it for Canada. Looks like Canada, once this gets introduced, Vera Poe is going to wonder the what ifs after scoring the Olympico early on. And the final whistle's there. Big win for Canada, full points. So Canada gets full points in the 2-1 win against Ireland. Early goal by McCabe on the Olympico goes for naught. And Canada will go up top of the group with the 2-1 win there today. So, Will, when it comes to transfers, really quickly before we go, like I said, just we got time. We don't know what we don't know when it comes to negotiations. And when everything is finalized, we'll know. Because remember, you've got Leagues Cup and you've also got the dash at the end of the Major League Soccer season. So that's what you're looking at when it comes to that. So just once again, we don't know what we don't know. Just we're seeing things. We're learning about Turkish sources. We're learning about South American sources all over again. Like I said, it's just, when the announcements are made, that's when the announcements are made. Because this is not a team, nor should you in any business, let folks know about what's going on, because all you do at that point is make it more difficult for yourself, and you let everybody else in on the process, and they can come out and undercut you. So everything done in the shadows. Everything is done in quiet, just quiet, and maybe 2. So we'll keep an eye on that. But thanks again. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll keep talking about stuff. That's the official term. And Thursday's Thursday Thoughts. Nico Moreno joining us at 10:30. And we'll be back at 9:05. This 8:05 thing, man, that's a lot of caffeine that's attached to this. So, no, it was a late night, and it stunk. It stunk. We know that. We all do. And, where do you go from here, and how do you build? That's the question. So, thanks to everybody for hanging out. We'll do it again tomorrow morning, 9:05. Thanks to Luke Winstel, who joined us from Brisbane, Australia. And thanks to all of you for visiting. So, mucho platiel, play it safe. We'll be back again 9:05 tomorrow morning, regular time. I got to go interview some high school football coaches and some prospects and some folks heading to the next level. So, thanks for putting up with the show being an hour early. You can listen to it back again on the network coming up in short order on your app and all your social media platforms. So, play it safe, everybody. It's the end of the show. That means I get to do this.